Welcome to Raising the Flipping Bar, the go-to podcast for aspiring and seasoned real estate investors. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and I'm the CEO of Elevation. We're a real estate investment company based right here in Denver, Colorado. We'll dive into smart investment strategies, market insights, and essential tips for scaling your real estate ventures. Whether you're making your first investment or your 100th investment, this podcast is your blueprint for success in the ever-evolving world of real estate investing. Get ready to elevate your real estate game and begin your journey with me. Well, I'm so excited. So now we're bringing back Eli Wood from Black Flag Design. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to dive right into part two, but man, thanks for hanging with us for a second part of the episode.
Thanks for letting me ride along. It's been fabulous. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. So we were ending last week's episode, and we're going to jump into this week's episode with narrowing the focus a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about some of your recommendations for AI tools, whether it's real estate in general, real estate investing, because our main audience are investors, entrepreneurs, agents, and typically contractors. So can you give us a little bit of those tools that you might recommend for folks?
Sure. I think a great place to start is the existing tool set.
Okay.
So throw out some examples. What are these people using? Excel?
Yeah, all the Microsoft suite, I think what people would definitely be using. Obviously, email, social media, the MLS in everybody's individual markets. Those are probably big tools that people are using to run their day-to-day business.
That's where I'd start, is really taking that inventory and what I like to call an exercise of mindful use of technology. And the mindful use of technology means that I'm not just going to my rote tool set, but instead I interrogate what I use and I question what value it brings to myself and my business. And that's a really important exercise to start at. So if I'm using Excel for 80% of my day, that's what I need to be thinking about from an AI in my tooling standpoint. And so the framework I like to think about a lot is the repetitive nature of pains. So how often is a pain occurring? Maybe I always forget that one formula. And for whatever reason, I have to go and copy and paste it out of my notepad and bring that formula in, even though I've used it for years. I can't get it in my memory. Okay, maybe that's something where AI can just recall, right, and go retrieve it and bring it for me. And so that there's a pretty logical progression when you start to assess your toolkit, think about repetitive pain points, and the use cases become very obvious. But then a lot of people stop at the how. Okay, maybe I don't know how to write a program. I can't code. I'm not smart enough to do work automation. But that's where the AI can be super helpful now. And so we can go have a discussion with an expert that's just at our fingertips to ask those questions to. And in many cases now, even write functioning programs for us. So in the Excel use case, if you go talk to ChatGPT about macros, formulas, or other tools that you use, I promise you that ChatGPT can write you an XML script that you just go and literally drag and drop into your interface, and you can make it a button click to use AI for you. So there's ways that it can work as a sidecar to work. Great example. You can go out, grab something, bring it back. But even more so, like in Excel now, there's GPT extensions where you can just put a key in, and then all of a sudden you have a chat that can just drop components in, drop formulas, macros, and more, even build pivot tables for you. Wow. Do like column and row completion with intelligence. Okay. And so I think a lot about building AI into and on top of existing work right now. And eventually it will consume entire steps. Yeah. But it's hard to give people too directive recommendations without knowing their context, because you don't want to go on some wild goose chase, right? We all have money to make and jobs to do. Yeah. So it's a fine balance to know where to bring it into your workflow or what tools specifically.
I really like that. And I really want everybody at home and listening to key into that. You're right. I think people try to go so far beyond maybe their level of comfort, their technology skills to pull the most out there tool when, use it for Excel, use it for your email, use it for crafting newsletters. Like you're right, like the blocking and tackling, if we go back to the good old football days of improving your business instead of trying to create this little outlier that you're probably not that great at anyways. So I really love that advice.
And if you think about it, like in the football metaphor, as a former lineman, I don't know if this will relate to people, but it was always very important that your first step have forward momentum. Mm-hmm. And it's really easy whenever you're stressed and tired to make a drop step and
Yeah.
then go forward. It's
Yep.
just a common lack of discipline, tiredness. And I think there's moments though where that drop step's important if you're
Yeah.
using it strategically. And so what I'm suggesting is people take that moment.
Yeah.
Take that step back, determine if I need to go forward or am I going to pull?
Yep.
Am I going to change my course?
Yep.
Like I think every business is at that moment where it's healthy over the holiday season, whatever you want to do, whenever you can, to take that time to do an inventory and reflect on where these things could show up for you. And it's
Yeah.
most likely that they will.
Right.
It's already happening.
And that warms my heart. So you're talking to a former linebacker, and on the defensive side of the ball, it was that read step. It's the exact same thing. It's that little baby step, check, assess, see what's going on. And I love that metaphor
Everybody should take
for
it
business.
today.
Everybody should take that, whether you're playing offense or you're playing defense. If we've set up this weird little parable that we're just talking about, that's
It's
just such a cool
changed.
thing.
It's
Different.
business is different in the past 18 months than it was in the past 10 years, post 08, post 2011. We're at a change moment that in hindsight, people look back at November 2023 as that, like the sort of earth shattering, all of a sudden, these computers talk to us again in really crazy ways. And so if you had an expert at your fingertips, what would you have done with them 18 months ago? Because now they're there and they cost pennies. They cost fractions of pennies to use.
Well, maybe that's something I'm jumping all over the board, but you taught a class for our Broadway Collective members, and it was AI tools for business success. And you laid it out perfectly where you just mentioned 2 or 3 tools that all in are under $100 a month.
Yep.
And people spend that on freaking Netflix, obviously, or
I was just
your
talking to a
subscription. Like,
buddy.
that's amazing.
He got a pitch for $500 a creative episode, spinning out clips, doing some social posts.
Yeah.
I was like, per episode? I was like, you can do that whole stack for a year for $500 right now. If you use AI in a smart way with tools that you can pull off the shelf.
Yeah.
You don't even have to build anything. You just have to connect them together.
Yeah.
And it takes a fraction of the time that it used to. And so now we're taking a moment with him to talk about really what that means so that he doesn't spend thousands over the year and instead just spends hundreds.
Right.
Like we all can get there right now.
Well, that jogs my memory on something else that you said. And I'm going to marry this like conceptually with 2 things. So I forget who I was listening to. It was a different podcast. And they were really talking about how they had the classic business coach or the strategy coach. And he made that akin to an older, more experienced person. But then, and I want to say this person was probably in their 50s. And then they hired a prompt engineering coach who was a younger person who was obviously super dialed into technology. And I thought that was really cool. That person had the foresight to say, I need 2 people at 2 very different ends of the spectrum. And I think it was you maybe talked to me after the episode of, let's not use ChatGPT as just a Google search. Can you maybe talk about some tools that our folks can use for prompt engineering and just some guidelines that would maybe help them use this base level tool more effectively? Because I think, again, they're like, you brought it up perfectly. You don't need to write your own program. You just need to use things maybe more organically and thoughtfully instead of just a Google search, I guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the relationship of Chat GPT or these other tools to search is coming up so frequently lately.
Yeah.
And I feel like at first it was very clear to people that the corpus of knowledge that they had was outdated. ChatGPT still only goes to October 2023.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like we're way past that now. And so using it as a search is, I think, highly inadvisable.
Yeah.
I do think conventional search methods are still very useful. If you think of ChatGPT as a way to formulate your query using operands and formulas in Google, you will get more accurate results. If you use ChatGPT as the thought partner to craft a query to then go to Google, rather than using the new web feature that's scraping data.
Yeah.
It's not quite there yet as a search tool. Perplexity is good. Claude are good. I mean, these are good tools, but they have timestamps where they are not recent enough for the things that I need. Technology is changing every day. Situation is changing every day. I can't rely on data from 2023 right now. Like there are whole new products in the market in the past 6 weeks that I have to be aware of. It's not going to solve my need. And I don't think it's going to solve a lot of people's needs. So It's been surprising how much people think of it as a search tool.
Right.
And I think it's because of the positioning and the competition that's happening. Everybody's going up against Google. Google's scared because
Right.
of what's going to happen with AI and search.
Right.
So it makes sense that like that battle that's going on right now, which is playing out in the public sentiment, is actually distracting from the most high value applications of this.
Yeah.
Where if we create isolated, targeted use cases in either custom GPTs or other custom programs, you can have the business coach, you can have the prompt engineering coach,
Mm-hmm.
and your whole portfolio of employees, partners in the forms of AI that will help you at those fractions of pennies compared to what it would cost to hire the coach.
Yeah.
And do I want the coach with the limited experience and their bias?
True.
Or do I want the coach that is a chameleon and adaptive to any situation?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, I think maybe as a millennial younger generation, I'm going to take the coach that's adaptive
Yeah.
and that can flex to me and that I can actually manage myself
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
And I want more people to take that agency.
Yeah.
So there's things like character.ai that let you have and manage these characters. There's crew.ai that lets you have agents that can perform tasks for your business.
Okay.
They can go scrape data in real time.
Right.
And I think my big question is really in the real estate world, what is the MLS going to do? What tools are they going to provide to people on top of their existing infrastructure and tool set and the
Yeah.
data they manage?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the industry should be clamoring for MLS to provide tools to them.
Dealing with hard money lenders is the biggest headache real estate investors have. I thought that's just how hard money had to be until I met Backflip. Backflip is changing the lending game by actually making loans stress-free. And I know this firsthand because I personally use them for my own deals. Let me tell you, their free app makes real estate investing effortless. With just a few taps, I can apply for loans tailored exactly to my needs, whether it's low interest rates, high leverage, or even deferred payments. The best part, I can secure financing in less than 2 weeks, making it easier to scale my business and close more profitable deals. But it doesn't stop there. Backflip instantly provides all the data I need to estimate profits, including a curated list of high-quality comps, saving me hours of work. Unlike other lenders who disappear after funding, Backflip is a true partner for elevation. Their team is always just a call away and ready to answer any questions and offer support. With Backflip, you get the data and the cash you need to jump on good investments quickly and with confidence. Click the link in the show notes to download the free app. Now let's get back to the show.
I really want everybody to go back and listen to this. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. As you're right, whether it's the Zillows of the world, the realtors of the world, Redfin, the MLS, they're the 800-pound gorilla. So they should be implementing AI to make their tool more effective so that we use it and it doesn't go away. But you're right. I don't know why we don't have that. And to your point earlier, that stuff is changing in 1 week increments, 6 week increments. Why are they not doing that? Like, sorry, I'm like screaming at the camera, like MLS, Redfin, Zillow, like, why are you guys not driving the ship on this one and helping the rest of us as independent business owners and real estate agents and investors, like, drive more business? That's ridiculous.
It seems like the most obvious job that small realtors, agencies, brokers
Yep.
are in need of that they would hire a product for.
Right.
And so the entrenchment of monopolies or duopolies, however you want to position it, sometimes means that innovation happens slower and you don't necessarily retain as much value as you should as a customer. And so I'd be super interested if people are building their sidecars to MLS.
Yeah.
Are there small softwares that are popping up that people are using? Maybe like a medium to large brokerage could build themselves or afford to implement themselves.
Yep.
Versus what the big behemoths like your KW and others are implementing to help their agents. It's all like fascinating because now we can build these small tools much cheaper if we use the right strategies than having to wait on the MLS or having to wait on Redfin and Zillow to provide more tools to us. So what does that mean in the long term? Are you going to be as dependent on leads from Zillow? Are you going to be as dependent on Redfin? Or even potentially will the entrenchment of the MLS be as relevant if people have hyper localized real estate solutions that they can manage themselves? And I think we're going to see that happen where teams of 2 to 3 will outperform a traditional team of 15. That's absolutely the path that we're on, because the team of 2 to 3 can change fast enough.
Absolutely. And you're right. And process more information and be more nimble and tap into all these different tools.
Less decision points, less disagreement. All of that's going to factor into business agility for sure.
No, that's really cool. It's funny because I want to also practice what I preach too. So in preparing for this episode, we've known each other for a while, but I also wanted to use ChatGPT to help me create the right questions for this. So I'm going to walk our audience through this. And again, not that this is right or wrong, and you can totally shred my thesis or whatever, because we've got a little bit of time left and I want to be sensitive to your time. But I typed in, my first search was create a podcast interview outline with 10 points based on the topics of AI involvement in real estate investing. And I felt like I got average results, but it helped me remember, hey, I want to talk to Eli about the ethical considerations of AI. So we're going to talk about that next. So again, that was like high level. And then I said, what are 5 current AI tools or software which can be used to assist real estate agents and investors? And how will those tools change in the next 2 to 3 years? And it was really cool. It was much more refined. And if I just did a Google search on what are the top 5 real estate investing tools, I wouldn't have got these results. And it gave me cruel results, and it gave me how it might change. So I thought that was fun and sent me down a different rabbit hole. And then I wanted to get even more granular. And I said, how to use ChatGPT to analyze MLS data and summarize comps effectively following a specific step or guideline. Because I thought of, okay, how do I train my virtual assistant in the Philippines, who's a super smart woman, to your point, use more data, aggregate it faster, get our agents dialing the phones better because we've got better data. And it gave me like 6 super granular steps. So I don't know, again, critique it, slice it apart or whatever, but that was how my thought process went, and just trying to get better. And I don't know if there's things that we could have done better, but it's just like thinking through that was just like, I got to test this out of myself and be vulnerable to the audience.
For sure. For sure. What tools did it bring back that like surprised you? Do you remember?
You know what? I should actually have that, and I might be able to.
Yeah, I'm curious to know.
I got to go back and look. I shut it down.
Yeah, I'm curious to know those tools, because that's always like, anytime you express surprise or delight, that's interesting. That's a great AI reaction. We're at the point now where we use AI in our coding, and it's like having the twin that finishes your sentences, but it's not annoying because it's super helpful, right? Like people type 3 characters starting to write out a string or write out a program, and it'll complete the whole program for them just in one button. And we're like, wow, like that was surprising, delightful. Like it almost felt like it read my mind. And so that's always like something to go interrogate and think about, okay, how do I get more results like that? What did I do or tell it that got me something that I was expecting or surprised by? So, and I also think about the MLS example on those 6 steps. You say like, oh, it aligns. I think that those would be great, really tactical first steps to do. And so I did my own query thinking about, as somebody that's a technologist or creative, how would I express to an AI to get 6 steps to process MLS data automatically, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so in the first response, it's always going to be general, right? It's pulling from that broad knowledge base. And actually the sentence structures are very obviously general as well.
Right.
And so in this case, it was things like gather data, create an adapter, process the data, extract features like location, square footage, size, number of rooms, how to train a model to do that well based on what you like or don't like at returning.
Cool.
And so mine knows that I talk like a technologist, right? It's probably giving me more specifics to the actual like solution on hand. But then I went deeper, right? Because I'm not actually the data engineer. I'm not the expert in managing web scrapers, but maybe I want to be for this hour, right? And try it out and explore it. And so ChatGPT even came back deeper saying common MLS attributes are property ID, location, square footage, bedroom, bathroom, year built, listing price, and sale history. I wouldn't have known that, right? Like I haven't looked at the MLS. My mom's a real estate agent down in Texas, but like I haven't poked around in there deeply. And then another thing that it came back is that the MLS commonly has missing data. And so you have to be ready to handle null values and normalize attributes along a shared metric. Wouldn't have thought that.
No, me either.
Okay, AI, yes. Thank you. right?
Sure.
Good. Yeah. Good job, AI. And so as you go deeper and refine your thinking, I think you find places where it's just going to think of the things that you didn't because it has that broad corpus of knowledge. It's trained really well on C sharp, Java, old school programming language, and database management frameworks. So it's really good for our uses. Now, creative ways to leverage real estate data, maybe it could get there. But I think it's also very likely to like tread into the regulated territory
True. Well
very
said.
quickly. And so your expertise is going to be reining it back in. Like I might come up with really radical suggestions to do something cool, but you always need the subject matter expertise with these tools to determine like a go, no go zone. Like that's where the ethics come in.
Perfect.
Is that the subject matter expertise, like in our education product, we have people with 35 years of education systems experience that are shaping the tool. We are not doing it in isolation. We would not sign up to do that. It's very risky. It's going to be very dangerous in some cases to do that. Same thing with the wildfire risk assessment and analysis that we're doing. Same thing. These fire science experts and data scientists, they own their zone. Like we are not using AI to tell them what to do. Instead, they're the ones shaping and reining in the behaviors of it. So there's no way to do it without expertise. And the experts are the ones who bring ethics, I would say. Like you have to have some knowledge and some institutional memory to know when things went south, to know when things led to bad decisions, to know when we've hurt people in the past, whether financially and even in some cases physically. Like the companies that touch health, safety, wellness should be very careful. Very, very careful.
Yeah. And you summarized that perfectly, because that was going to be one of my questions. Is people always say, well, AI is going to replace my job. And maybe some certain instances, yes, that might occur. But what you just outlined, I think, is perfect. It hits on the ethical discussion, but it hits on that these has to be tools to be brought back to people that are experts in their field. Hopefully it just creates new opportunities, new business models, new ventures for people if it's used properly.
Yeah, and admittedly, I think we're still gonna see the change that happened in the auto industry in the late 90s. There were a lot of people that had jobs that needed to be in place, but then when automation showed up, they were displaced and they went home and they either took early pension or in many cases lost their jobs to robots, robotic arms, moving parts, and process automation. So that will admittedly still happen.
Of course.
And I think we know that reskilling and upskilling historically has failed terribly. We are not good at late stage adult education in this country.
That's well said.
We have to get there. There's going to be tens of thousands, if not potentially hundreds of thousands of people in the next 10 years that will lose their jobs or they will have job changes due to AI.
Right.
And we need to be in a place where we have somewhere to receive them, hear them, help them, train, learn, find meaning in our work again. It's going to be a very difficult decade in that respect.
I think that's really astute, because we talked off camera about the merits of college and an expensive degree and additional degrees. What's worth it? I didn't think of it through that framework, but it's going to be really important, of the reskilling or upskilling of an aging working demographic who's not ready to retire, who shouldn't just hang it up. Like you can't just play golf all the time. Sadly, we've got a lot of data that shows that people are not prepared financially for retirement as well. So yeah, this is a big thing that we've got to work on. And as a country, we've got to really hit this topic kind of at both ends of the spectrum. We're talking about maybe college isn't the right fit. There's great opportunities for our people in our sphere pushing into trades, pushing into ways that people can make great money, which is good. But there's the middle. People maybe feel like they've got it figured out, but it's that end bracket.
Yep.
And I didn't think about that. That's super astute.
The trade renaissance coming is going to be beautiful. I think in the last job report, the number one in-demand industry is electricians.
Yep.
But it's not for single-family development. It's for data centers and to get computers hooked up and to get GPUs hooked up. And there's a lack of commercial electricians in the world.
Oh, interesting.
And so I think the trade renaissance coming is in green, it's in data, it's in energy. And so there's going to be work and there's going to be things for us to go do. And hell, one day I would love to stop typing on the keyboard and go build data centers. That sounds fun, but it's not my time right now. And I know not everybody has the luxury to call their shot. And so what's unfortunate is that like when it's forced and your hand is forced, will there be the appropriate services and places where people can go get skills and go support their community? I think a lot about old school like conservation corps that was spun up in the late 30s with FDR. We need more programs like that. We need to pay people to clean our parks. We need to pay people to keep our civic communities together. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of people leave the corporate world and go into local community work, but we have to find ways to fund it, whether it's through venture philanthropy or federal grant and subsidy. I think will happen.
Love it. Well, as we wrap up today, I want to give you a minute to think through either one final thing that you want to leave the audience with, or I know you have a lot of notes too. So if there's another tool that maybe we didn't hit on, but man, it has been so fun having you, Eli, from Black Flag Design on today's episode. I definitely could see this as a quarterly thing because to your point, everything moves so fast. Technology moves so fast and we have to be a great recipient of it. But any other things you want to leave with the audience before we show them how to get a hold of you?
This might sound too grandiose or bombastic, but I think I would just encourage everybody to be principled and stick to their guns, stick to their beliefs, like own the way that you show up. And so if you are so excited about using AI, use it, work out loud, be excited about it. But on the flip side, if you're finding yourself in a place where you're hesitant to use AI or uncertain, that's okay. And take your time and focus on learning, focus on doing what you can. And that's just as acceptable. Not everybody has to be at the same place. But if there's any encouragement I can offer, there's tons of organizations like ours that are building aligned with state regulatory standards, that are proactively publishing risk assessments, proactively working out loud, talking about how we use it in our development, how we use it in our engineering. And we're here to help. And so we currently have 2 really deep business relationships. I think we're able to scale to 1 more.
Okay.
And so we're actively looking for that partnership with organizations that want to build and want to explore, do some business experimentation.
Cool.
And if you're in the small mom and pop shop, experiment there.
Yep.
If you're at home in your personal life trying to cut down time you spend cooking, use AI there. Let's get started, I think. But everybody's okay to be at a different place with it right now. But keep an eye towards the future always. We have to be thinking about how we grow, adapt, compete. And it's not like we're not all in the same race though.
No, that's really well said. And what a great way and just a beautiful way to put a bow on a very scary for some people topic, very exciting for some people type of topic. So thank you for just wrapping that in this perfect package. So Eli, you did such a good job of putting a beautiful bow on this conversation. I want to thank you for that, but I know people are going to have the desire to reach out to you. So how can people get a hold of you or Black Flag Design? How do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so our website is super simple. It's blackflag.design. So go check us out. It's easy to get in touch with us there. We monitor that inbox, but also myself, Eli Wood on LinkedIn. I'm super active there, do a lot of writing, do a lot of publishing of our own podcasts at AI DIY, and also with my partner Keith Pattison on LinkedIn. We're just all over. LinkedIn is our primary place to share ideas, put things out into the business community. So I would really just love any kind of engagement, connection on LinkedIn would be phenomenal.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, everybody, I hope you got so much out of today's episode. Again, this is part 2, so I would highly encourage you, in case you came in on the tail end, go listen to part 1, re-listen to part 2. Eli, it's been so great having you, and thank you guys, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. If you found value in our insights and stories, let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on social media and be sure to share this episode with friends or colleagues who might benefit. Your feedback and reviews help us grow and reach more listeners like you. So please, if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review. Thanks again to the Elevation Academy for sponsoring today's show. If you're interested in learning more, click the link in the show notes below. And remember, every property tells a story, every deal brings a lesson. Keep reaching for those goals, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening and watching Raising the Flipping Bar. Just a basic overall disclaimer is that A, this is not legal advice.
B, this is not tax advice. C, this is not financial advice. I hope you get the gist, but I'm obviously not a lawyer, not a CPA. Hell, I'm not even a real estate agent, actually. But in general, we hope you get a ton of value out of this. But there is a bit of a disclaimer. Please consult a professional if you have any questions whatsoever. Thanks.